What's up, everyone? Welcome to One-and-Done-athon Season 2. So, I'm here, my good buddy Jay Hobbs.
Hey.
Hobbs is going to be helping me out this marathon, so I'm not doing 14-hour shifts straight. But, yeah, so for those of you who don't know, this is a marathon that every runner here got one submission, and they get one acceptance. So if you see him in this marathon, this is the only time you're going to see him in this marathon. So people get to do, like, their passion games, stuff they're really excited about.
I was gonna say, I think the other cool thing is we get to see a lot of people who haven't done a lot of marathon runs before, and sometimes people who have, but are doing something completely different from what they've done in previous marathons.
Yeah. There's definitely a couple of those that, like, people submitted for this games I wasn't expecting them to submit.
Yeah.
So we did this last time, and I kind of want to do it again this time because I really like doing it. Just going down the list. Saying a couple things about what we'll see every day because, obviously we reviewed all the runs and these are people's passion projects. So, we're starting off today with Hollow Knight by Jeffisepic. Just, like, quintessential platform.
Yeah. And the category in particular is what's really weird and interesting here. It's NKG%, which is Nightmare King Grim %. I believe is done on current patch, and it's also going to be no major glitches, which is super neat because it means you get all of the side quests related to unlocking Nightmare King Grim and obviously the first Grim fight as well. So you get, like, some good optional stuff, but, like, it's still not quite the full 100%, which can kind of be long and drag and stuff. Should be a really fun time.
Yeah. And then after that we've got BS Legend of Zelda by Ice Blue. It's definitely a more offbeat pick.
Yeah.
Ice Blue is I know him best for Final Fantasy runs, but I think those are the, like, Satellaview as SNES Legend of Zeldas are just always really interesting to see because they're kind of janky in, like, a really unexpected way.
It's very weird. We'll see when that one comes up. And then Musical Daredevil is going to be coming up after that. Longtime friend of ours who's doing Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind and all main quests at that too. And Daredevil runs, like, every Elder Scrolls game pretty much at this point.
Yeah.
Multiple categories, so this should be a really fun one for sure.
Yeah, and Morrowind is just broken completely.
Yeah.
So it's 25 minutes long.
I was going to say, estimate is 25.
Yeah.
That ought to tell you something.
And then this is one of the offbeat picks I was talking about. Teddy Ross Memoirs of Magic. It's a, like, Doom Quake-esque FPS that's I expect horror games out of Teddy Ross usually, so this was a surprise to see.
Yeah, it looks really cool. The movement in it seems very fast, and just it seems like stuff is going on in that game at all times for an hour 40. It's going to be gripping the edge of your seat for it.
Yeah, I was watching him practice. It's super hard, so definitely check that one out. And then.
Okay, and then Corvame, because apparently you can't get this one out there. We're gonna see Learn with Pokemon Typing Adventure from Corvame, which is just incredible. Yeah, it's just a glorious category and game to do. I don't know what else to say about it. It's a Pokemon typing game, everybody. It's a comedic adventure.
Yeah. And then Bastion, which I know is a game that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
I've played Bastion. I like it a lot, but I've never really speedrun it. And I do think the speedrun of it is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, the movement that they can pull off is wild.
It's so good. It's also going to be a longer category than, like, Bastion can be done in, like, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, but it's going to be all story levels, no menu storage. Primeworks is a just beast when it comes to Bastion runs, so that should be a really fun one for sure.
And this is one of the more, like, indie unknown picks. Prison Runnergun with Deschain33. I'm gonna have to ask him how they pronounce that when we go live. But
Deschain, maybe.
Deschain, maybe.
I don't know.
It's a really interesting one because it's a 2D platformer, but it feels very, like, Super Meat Boy-esque. But you have, like, a projectile. You have a gun in the Prison Run Gun, so you can affect, like, the obstacles around you, and you got to do, like, barrel boosts to get up platforms. And there's, like, enemy abuse where you can jump on them to avoid them killing you and jump up. Yeah,
cool.
No, it's really cool.
Really interesting.
And then Tapioca with Yakuza.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think works. 2 hours of just fan favorite series, I would say. Yakuza, it's really cool. Tapioca's a great runner as well, and that one is going to be, I think that's, like, one of our comfier picks too, despite it not being, like, it still has a lot going on, but it's at that 2 hour length where you can just really be sitting there and chilling and enjoying it.
Yeah, for sure. And then Azure with Neon White. This is a game that both Hobbs and I, it's one of our games of the year.
We had to fight over who was going to be hosting for this one. So
Neon White's an incredible run. It's so good. There's so much going on. It's one of the fastest FPSs I've ever played. So
very fun one.
Yeah, nothing more to say. Check that one out. And then ending the day today, Captain Ezekiel with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. He actually just got the record for it last night.
Wow, really? Yeah. That's super cool. New game Madhouse too. Does Madhouse like a harder difficulty?
Yeah, okay. Hard mode.
Yeah, that should be a fun one. Resident Evil runs in general, like that community pulls off some really wild stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm super stoked. That run specifically is one I've been looking forward to for a while to see it just on a bigger stage, because Madhouse is really, really hard. Like, you cannot make mistakes.
Cool.
So
that'll take us through the evening.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
And then we'll be back to do this tomorrow. But Hobbs taking the first shift today. He's going to be going through everything. But for now, we're going to kick it over to Jeff is Epic with Hollow Knight. Jeff, take it away.
Awesome, thanks. I'm Jeff is Epic. I'll be running Hollow Knight, Nightmare King Grim %. I'm joined on comms by Violet Blight. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Violet. I'm here to talk.
Awesome. So I will talk very briefly and then kick it off. The reason I submitted Nightmare King Grim % to One-and-Done-athon, since you only get one, is just that Nightmare King Grim kicked my butt casually. Just could not do it. Hours and hours of slamming my head against the wall back in 2017, 2018, whatever. And then started speedrunning the game with COVID, and this was a category, learned it, got really good at the fight, and just sort of like dunking on a boss that used to dunk on you is really satisfying.
For sure. I remember having similar experiences, just like even getting started with like any %, like just learning those fights and just demolishing them feels so good compared to dying millions of times.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, then I am good to count down if we're ready.
We are ready to go.
All right, then we will kick it off in 3, 2, 1, go. So
good luck. This should be really fun.
Thanks. So here at the start, I'm just going to be skipping some cutscenes. We can sort of talk about a little history of the category. So this is what is affectionately referred to in the community as a meme run. Just a lot of like the category extensions boards for Hollow Knight, which is largely a current patch thing. There's a really huge community that sort of grew up, I think, out of the rando community to some degree, of doing things on current patch for a lot of accessibility reasons, and also just then you don't have to do the down patching thing.
Yeah, because down patching used to be a lot more tricky to do, and also 1221, which is the common speedrun patch for most full game runs, is not terribly well optimized, and so performance issues mean that running on the current patch is more comfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah, 1221, unless you have a very beefy computer, does not run well. But that is the typical sort of like speedrun patch. It's got a lot of tech that later patches don't have. The really interesting thing about Nightmare King Grim % is because there are some things you can do only on current patches, 1.4.3.2 and later. The speeds are actually pretty comparable. In fact, Record is currently on current patch. So I think that's really interesting just to have a category where the two patches can actually compete with each other, given that for most categories, 1221 just is flat out faster. It's not particularly close for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. It's not something you see often. Like a lot of the category extensions, we have current patch runs as faster than 1221 runs, but that's just because people don't do the runs on 1221. But you especially have done like both of the category, have done both versions for this category, right?
Yeah, I have the Record on 1221 and am currently second, third on current patch.
Mhm.
All right, double spike free on current patch. Air quotes
Yeah,
free, but
yeah, a lot of this early game is just going to be walking. Hollow Knight starts a little slow in terms of movement, but we end up picking up the main abilities pretty quickly. And then after that, we're going to mostly be doing fetch quest stuff. So to unlock Nightmare King Grim, we have to do all of the Grim Troop DLC, which involves summoning the Grim Troop first, and then the Troop Master Grim himself will send us on a quest throughout the game to collect Grim Flames and fight like mini bosses, I guess. Mini bosses is maybe a bit generous; they're mostly pushovers, but a lot of what we're doing is traveling around the map collecting Grim Flames, and then we come back to do the bosses.
yeah, when they added the Grim Troop DLC, they sort of scattered the flames all over the game world, which is super cool, but also leads to a lot of, like, even for some of the longer categories that need to do Grim, leads to a lot of all the routing is just sort of based around that.
Yeah,
Because you don't want to revisit places if you can help it.
yeah, for 1XX categories, including the stuff that I typically run, a lot of it is just centered around going and clearing through areas as you're able to do them during the Grim Quest, because the Grim Quest does just dictate a lot of when you're able to visit places.
Right. So, I mean, obviously we've been, swinging our nail, bouncing off things, hitting enemies. We saw me heal because I missed Statue Pogo because it's a myth. But we're picking up our first ability finally. The Fireball or Vengeful Spirit, if you want to use the correct name.
Yeah. Our spells are going to be the majority of the damage throughout this run, because of a few things. One, they scale in damage much more quickly than the nail does. At the full equipment, nail builds are slightly faster, but for a lot of speedruns, you end up using primarily spells because you can't really upgrade the nail at the same speed as you upgrade spells. And additionally, the Grimkin, which are the mini bosses we have to fight to complete the Grim Quest, they scale with nail upgrade. Or their health scales with nail upgrades specifically. So if we don't upgrade our nail but use powerful spells, we're able to deal with them very quickly.
Yeah, particularly, there are a few different bosses and enemies in Hollow Knight that scale with nail damage. The Grimkin are some of the ones that scale the hardest. Even at just nail 1 and nail 2, they already are getting into the point where it's taking extra casts of Vengeful Spirit or later Shade Soul to kill them. So, particularly in this category, nail upgrades are not an option.
Yeah, in theory, you can probably do nail upgrades right at the end of the run just for NKG if you want that safety, but it's definitely not optimal. But yeah, we are now heading into Green Path. Very pretty area, not particularly fun for speedrunning.
Yeah, the early game, because we don't have dash, you're sort of just trying to hold right as much as possible or left, and dash sort of helps you recover from mistakes really well in a lot of cases, just because you can move faster. One of the problems with just walking is if you mess something up, it's a lot slower to fix it.
Yeah. As a result, a lot of the movement skips here in Green Path are a lot rougher to recover. Luckily, they do all have pretty simple backup, so we aren't going to ruin the run here. But it's very annoying when doing runs.
Okay.
And that is our first of 2 fireball skips. One other thing that Vengeful Spirit does is it stalls you in the air, for one, and it also knocks you back very slightly, so we're able to use that to access platforms that we otherwise wouldn't be able to. Here's the second, and we get both first try. You love.
Yeah, fun fact about that second one, it is harder on current patch because they slightly moved that little platform, and so the timing is even tighter than it is on 1-2-2-1.
Yes, I believe you have to get that jump with coyote frames in order to make the fireball skip without bonking your head on the platform. The number of tiny things that are changed between patches is one of the most interesting things to me.
Yeah,
it's also like mildly infuriating at times, but it's neat.
Yeah, it's funny how much a very tiny change ends up really mattering to the run. Like, a lot of enemy spawns are more consistent on current patch, but a lot of them are the bad spawn.
Yeah. It's also funny how, like, most of those changes will not affect people that aren't speedrunning, right? Like, most casual players are not going to notice the difference in that platform. But yeah.
So coming up to the first boss, we're gonna quickly buy a stag. So this is our like fast travel system in the game. This category actually buys a pretty comically large number of stags. Again, because of that grim fetch quest for the flames, there's just a lot of places we need to quickly go back to, grab a flame, and then get out.
Yeah. But here's Hornet, the first real boss of the run, because we are able to skip False Knight, which we kind of glossed over. Hornet is another boss that ruined me casually, but I was also much worse at games then, and she's pretty easy to take down once you get a better idea of how quickly she staggers and just using fireballs efficiently.
Yeah, Hornet was actually... I died... When I started moving, I started out running on 1-2-2-1 in any percent. When I moved to more like current patch, like category extension runs, I died to Hornet a lot because it takes one more hit to stagger her on current patch. And that does not sound like a lot, but it really throws you off.
Yeah, it messes up your rhythm a lot. And now we have the Mothwing Cloak, which allows us to dash. Hot take, this game should have started with this movement ability. That's all I will say.
Absolutely correct.
The dash makes your movement feel a lot smoother and just like you're not just walking everywhere. It changes a lot. And now we go into the Fungal Waste to pick up our other main movement ability, Mantis Claw, so we can wall jump. This is also a bit of a tricky section. First, we're going to take a detour here to pick up a Charm Notch. We didn't mention it earlier, but Jeff did pick up Soul Catcher, one of 3 charms we end up getting throughout this run. Charms are just like equipment you... they're your... how do I put this?
I mean, now that it's Hollow-like and not Metroidvania, I think it's just charms, right?
True. But yeah, they're your equipment. We will mainly be switching to Shaman Stone in a bit when we buy it, because that increases our spell damage, which is probably... It's widely considered the best charm in the game. We also will need to pick up Grimchild in order to actually complete the Grim quest, which is, kind of important here. Oof.
Oh well.
That was meant to be the explosion pogo. Unfortunately, I think you went a bit early on to start the setup.
Yeah, I lost a tiny bit of height on my fireballs there.
The idea is that you stall yourself in the air such that you can pogo the explosion spore before it explodes and get the height to reach that area. On older patches, you can just pogo the explosion itself, but they did patch that out, unfortunately. Very nice Mantis Safari pogo. That is something that ends up being tricky. But instead, we go the long way around and we pick up our Mantis Claw. And from here, we are going to, again, save and quit, because this will bring us back to the last bench we took, which is back in the Ancestral Mount. We did this after Dash as well. I just didn't mention it.
Yeah, the game is nice in that, you know, if you save and quit without benching, you do keep all your progress still. So we use that a lot throughout the run just to like quickly get back where we were. It's also nice the way we time the game for official speedruns. There's a load remover. So like a lot of that quit out time, even though, you know, in real life it's a couple seconds each time, in the actual, you know, speedrun timer, it's, you know, fractions of a second and doesn't really matter, which is nice.
Yeah. And now we are heading through the rest of Crossroads. We're going to pick up one more stag station here, because we're going to need to head back here. And then we are going to deal with another quote-unquote boss, the Gruzmother, and then we are going to buy a Shaman Stone. And then it's probably fine, but we're going to die a bit.
Just a tiny bit of dying.
Yeah, just for fun, as a treat. Yeah, Gruzmother dies to nail Fireball 3 times and then 6 nail hit. Really simple formula.
Yeah, more of a glorified quick time event than a boss, really.
Yeah, I mean, the dealing with the small Gruzzers after is more of a pain.
And now we get the best charm in the game.
Yep.
Take a few hits. We need to save Sly here because we'll need a Lumafly Lantern. One of the things in like basically every Hollow Knight speedrun is, unless it's very short, you're gonna have to go to Crystal Peaks. You're gonna have to get Crystal Heart. You got to figure out, are you doing dive or are you doing Lantern? And it turns out Lantern is faster for most categories.
Yeah, unless you have to get dive for something, you're probably using Lantern.
Yeah, or it's a category that needs a billion geo, because Lantern is quite expensive. We're going to be picking up a lot of relics in these next 2 splits in order to pay for all of that.
That charm was Shaman Stone, which increases our spell damage and also the size of our spells, which is actually really important because it allows us to double hit with our fireballs.
Yeah, it's only 33% of a damage increase, which is actually the least of all the spells that Shaman Stone increases. But the size and extra knockback are really what cements it, because anytime you get a double hit, you just get double damage for free, basically.
Yeah. And we kind of glossed over it there, but that was a shade skip to get over here into the resting grounds. Because our shade is an enemy, it's the enemy that spawns when we die, and when we kill it, we get our geo back. We're able to pogo it and reach areas that we wouldn't otherwise, because down slashing on enemies in the air gives us upward movement. So we don't need as much vertical as we would otherwise. And now we have entered the Dream Realm. Here we're picking up the Dream Nail, which is kind of the story progression item, I guess, for this game. this is what allows you to actually get endings. Yes, I know there's a patch where that's not true. We're not talking about that. But the Dream Nail allows us to access a lot of the late game content. There are a few optional bosses. We actually do need it to summon the Grim Troop, which is the main reason we're here for it.
Shoutouts to failing seer skip every time.
In the current patch rule set.
Yeah, it is. It's much tighter to do that. You can actually get out of the room without getting sort of stopped by the seer there by doing a pause for that early control, but it's pretty tight.
Yeah. So now we're going to head back to Green Path, and then we're going to head up from there to the Howling Cliffs in order to light the Grim Lantern and summon the troop.
Yep. Dream Nail is sort of double required in this category. You both need it to start the DLC, and you need it to enter the NKG fight itself later on.
Yep.
One of the big things in this split, and a lot of the early splits, honestly, is your sort of routing of soul. So, soul gauge you can think of as going to 9. It's actually 99, but we're gonna pretend it's just 9. It costs 3 soul per cast. And so a lot of it is just, okay, how many spells am I going to need to cast to sort of do the optimal thing, whatever that may be, and then figuring out where you can whack a couple enemies with the least time loss.
Yeah. One other thing to mention that we did there is overcharming. That's going to come up a decent bit in this run. So you can technically put on charms. Each charm has a notch cost, which is just like your slots available. And the game initially stops you from putting on more charms than you have notches for. But if you try to do it 5 times in a row, the game will let you overcharm, and then you are able to wear that extra charm, but you also take double damage. For a lot of this run, we are going to be overcharmed in various points, including at the final NKG fight, which is, you get one hit. There are going to be a few spots where we won't be overcharming here just for safety, but because of the notch costs of the charms we need to wear, things are a little tricky and we overcharm a decent part of it.
Yeah, Shaman is 3 and we really need to have it on, and then Grimchild is another 2, but getting to 5 notches is not trivial.
Yeah, we will end up having 5 notches by the end of the run, so that for the last few Grimkin, we will be an overcharm, but we don't get that until 2 sets of the Grim Quest. So we do a decent bit, just making sure we don't get hit 3 times.
Yeah.
Thankfully, a lot of it's not that tricky, so...
Yeah, there's a lot of benches. You get, because of the nature of collecting all the flames, you're doing a lot of bench, go hit a flame, quit back to the bench. So there's a lot of, like, yes, you're overcharmed and that's sort of scary, but you're not really doing big, long sections while you're overcharmed. So it's a little safer. The other thing to note is there's a visual glitch with overcharming. So you might have saw my health bar had this like purplish glow. It's not always going to have that necessarily, because this game is very well coded, and sometimes you will be overcharmed but can't see it.
Yeah, I believe it's specifically if you overcharm while just entering the game from the main menu, is that it doesn't show up.
Yeah, we're making our way through City of Tears. This is the econ portion of the run. All of this is literally just gathering money and then setting up a couple stacks for later. Yeah. the first solid 20-something minutes of this run, and to be fair, most Hollow Knight runs, the first half-ish is really just like setting up, getting all the abilities you need, and then it's finally, okay, now you can do the thing that, you know, whatever the run is trying to do.
Yeah. We do these runs despite their early game sometimes. I really love Hollow Knight runs, but it does get a bit tedious at the beginning. But like this run gets to do some fun stuff, and most of the runs, both the main categories and our category extensions, are full of neat tricks and movement and bosses, and it's great.
Yeah, that's one of really the like sort of shining points of a lot of the category extensions is many of them are sort of built around like a really cool skip or a really cool boss fight or things like that.
Yeah, I think the three main forms of category extension we have are showing off some skip and having some goal that requires you to do that. Doing some sort of boss rush, so NKG %. Bray Prince Go % is the other classic. Another thing that Jeff has run some, I believe.
Yeah.
And then doing collectathon stuff. The famous ones are going to be all charm notches, which picks up all charm notches, which is also a very cool run, which was done here on One-and-Done-athon last time.
Yep, Cthulhu.
Yeah. And then the other one is Elegy %, which is saving all the grubs, which, I mean, it's great. Elegy % is great. I love that category. I'm not biased. I say having the current record for it. But yeah, like a lot of the runs, especially the meme runs, get to do some unique movement, and that's really what sets them apart. And what sets Hollow Knight apart, I think, is that there's so many possibilities for stuff you can do. Like, I think we have a list of over 100 meme categories of various establishment that people have like actually routed and run at least a few times.
Yeah, one of the nice things, like, I really like the combat in the game personally. But like, if you're not as into, you know, the hard bosses, there are categories that are basically just all cool movement. There's categories that are just some really like nearly TAS only skip. You can really find literally anything in the category extensions that you want.
Yeah, I'm definitely a bit more of a movement focused player. And like getting to just really grind out some of the stuff, like with Elegy, is great. So here we took a quick dip into the Soul Sanctum. Best area for speedrunning, no RNG whatsoever. What are you talking about? We'll be back there for just a bit to pick up Shade Soul later, but right now we're just getting the Stag after having gotten all of our Geo. The main method for getting Geo here is like going to be somewhat doing stuff, like killing enemies, getting boss chests, right? We have various ways to collect Geo, but the fastest is generally going to be Relic. Which we ended up picking up a lot of, and they sell for quite a lot.
Yeah, for like some math context, the idol I picked up in the Howling Cliff sells for 800 Geo, and like several of the enemies early on that we killed drop like 40, and that's a good enemy. So it's just infinitely more efficient to do relics.
Yeah. So now we're really quickly going to buy the Lumafly Lantern, which is our access to Crystal Peak. And then we're going to go say hi to the circus and pick up Grimchild, because apparently we're babysitting now.
Yeah. Crystal Heart, very almost not required. There's
so
one Grimkin that requires it.
Yeah, really unfortunate. But also having dash movement is nice and comfy.
Yeah, anytime.
Oh yeah, as chat points out, there are some of the meme runs that this community has come up with are, maybe a bit sillier than others. Shoutouts to Kronk%, which is hitting every lever in the game. That run's actually pretty cool. But like some of the stuff that happens that people decide to run, saying I question it is a bit generous, I think.
Yeah, there's some of the like really hard skips or just like really RNG heavy stuff, but I mean, there's something for literally everyone.
Yeah.
So heading into peaks now, we are actually going to fight Crystal Guardian 1. Very few categories fight CG1. Even fewer do it on like the normal first trip. But it is both a good source of geo, which we need a lot. We need a little bit more of, and also a very convenient bench.
I believe this is actually the only category on at least on the SRC boards that does do CG1 like here, as opposed to like even the 1XX categories and all bosses and stuff, I presume does it later.
Yep.
I don't know about all bosses actually, but yeah, I know like 112%, 107% do it later. Crystal Peak itself is very cycle based. There's a lot of like movement that isn't too tricky, but once it goes wrong, it goes very wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna be ultra safe here just because I don't want to do this again because some of those cycles went very, very poorly.
Yeah. The amount of optimization in Crystal Peak cycles is wild to me.
Yeah, when everything goes right, it's super smooth and everything looks great. And then when it doesn't go right, it falls apart very fast.
Yeah. Anyways, we beat up that miner for his money. I shouldn't have said it like that. Please don't quote me on that. But now we're going to go pick up the Crystal Heart, which is our last movement ability, which is very fast horizontal movement. I know there's going to be a Metroid equivalent, but I have yet to play a Metroid game because I am too young for most of them and don't have a Switch to play Dread.
No! I'm just not gonna any inventory drops this run.
Oof. Yeah. Inventory drops, if you open your inventory in the air, your fall speed is uncapped. It's also true of a few other animations, but on older patches, you can open your inventory while in midair. On the current patches of the game, you need to do it on the same physics frame as you walk off of a platform. Physics frames are 50 frames per second. So it's a bit tight of a window, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, they're not awful. There's also only a couple. There's, I think, 4 in the run that matter in terms of being like a pretty significant amount of time save. So for the most part, if you want to ignore them, it's not really going to hurt you.
Yeah. But they also just feel very cool to pull off because of like how tight they are.
Yeah, anything frame perfect is just very cool.
Yeah. And now we are going to collect some soul and fight our first Grimkin.
Yeah, so
there are 8 of these that we fight in total. There's technically a 9th, but we ignore that one because we would need more movement and we don't want to spend the time to get it.
Yeah. They are also awful RNG checks. This one
especially.
Yeah, this is the worst one in the run because you don't have Shade Soul yet.
But it behaved. Mostly. Oh, yeah. That's just gonna sit there. Okay.
Yeah, it takes those a really long time to go away, which is sort of funny. I've definitely been hit mid-air C dash after that because of it.
Yeah. But there are 3 levels of the Grimkin, depending on how many times we've talked to Grim and upgraded our Grim Child. And that will determine how long it takes to kill them. After this, we get to use Shade Soul, which is the upgraded spell for Vengeful Spirit, which will do double the damage and is generally a lot nicer to us in terms of killing Grimkin.
Yeah, probably the biggest thing about Shade Soul, obviously the damage is very, very good. One of the biggest things is Shade Soul goes through walls and VS doesn't. And the Grimkin have a really annoying habit of spawning in walls. And they can attack you from the wall, but until you have Shade Soul, you can't hit them.
Yeah. Which is part of why the Beast Grimkin is so frustrating, because it can just stick in walls.
Yeah. Yeah, I sort of like hang out on the right edge because there's more open space close to there in the hopes that that will like get it to spawn somewhere nice.
Yeah. So here, to collect the Shade Soul, because we cannot lever skip on this patch, we have to fight the Soul Warrior, who is collectively known as Norman. I don't actually have any idea why they're named Norman. I just know that they're really annoying and they're named Norman. Chat can probably enlighten us from people who are more established in the community and who have been around for some of the silly nicknames. But this fight is just really annoying because he teleports a lot. It's not 100% consistent to get doubles. And then the enemy spawns are like good for soul, but they also just will hit you a few times, and it's really annoying. We also used to have to do this fight overcharmed in this category, which, yeah, no.
Yeah, this fight needing to be overcharmed is actually what led to the current iteration of the route that is maybe safety and maybe slightly slower, maybe not. No, I don't think we really timed it out rigorously enough to say yet, but literally you would lose like over half your runs just to Norman being a giant jerk. And so we rerouted to make life a little easier on ourselves there.
Now we fight this Grimkin. As you can see, it's a lot less of an issue. And we're going to head to Green Path now to deal with the last one of this first set of 3.
Yeah, basically all of this movement is just getting up to 6 hits of soul because they have 50 health, so 2 Shade Souls is guaranteed to kill them. If you get a double, it only takes 1, but you don't really want to bank on getting a double. The tier 1 Grimkins have 2 attacks. They can dash at you, or they can shoot fireballs. Getting a double on the fireballs is very consistent. Getting a double on the dash is very inconsistent.
Yeah. Oh, why did you have to go up there? But yeah, these good old Grimkin RNG.
Yeah, so you see there it took basically 2 cycles of attacks for me to kill it. All of them have a thing where, like, if you get good doubles and they do get attacks, it takes fewer cycles. So it's an unfortunately very heavily RNG aspect of the run. You sort of just accept that going into it, that, you know, every now and again you'll lose 10 seconds to Grimkin, and it's not your fault, so it's okay.
Yeah. So now we're heading down through a little bit of Fog Canyon. We're not going to see much of this area. Usually don't see that much of it. And we're just going to pick up another stag here to come back to later.
Yeah, it is truly blessed that the Green Path Grimkin is a tier 1 or tier 0, depending on the numbering, Grimchild, because right now Grimchild doesn't shoot, which means it will not shoot those big explosive jellyfish. After
deal
this
double
upgrade,
damage.
it shoots, and so
Yeah.
that would be a
It
bad
doesn't
time
shoot-
to be there.
It doesn't shoot particularly well, but it sure does, and that can be annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna go talk to Grim, tell him we've done our job babysitting. He's gonna pay us in upgrading the child and making us do more.
A little bit of foreshadowing about, I'm definitely not going to try and beat you up later. No. I'm just, thank you for babysitting my child. Totally innocent. Definitely not going to
Yep.
attack you later.
Parenting is so rewarding, etc., etc.
Now we're...
Grimchild's aim is perfect if there's an enemy that will make you regret Grimchild's aim being good, or if it's Hornet 2 and she's parrying you.
Yes.
And that's literally it. Otherwise, Grimchild is awful.
Yeah, having Grimchild on is generally neutral to bad in a speedrun. It is technically
Yeah.
a little more DPS on some things, but like not really.
Yeah, it is avoided at all costs.
So for these next two flames, they're literally stag, grab the bench, go get the flame.
Yep.
Very, very quick. It's sort of why we had to spend so much money buying stags early on, is otherwise it would be a pretty huge walk back to each of these things.
Yeah. This is a pretty chill portion of the run before getting into one of the boss fights.
And you can see from the health, we're overcharmed through this entire section still. So don't take too many hits. It's pretty easy to avoid hits, but, you know.
Yeah. These sections are pretty simple. But yeah, overcharming always it puts a little bit of the nerves in you.
Yeah. So coming up after this is going to be the fight against Troop Master Grim. So finally, time to talk about the thing that makes current patch competitive, which is at every 1/4 of his health, Grim will puff up into a big ball and shoot fireballs at you for a while. On current patch, you can hit him with fireballs during that attack. On 1-2-2-1, you actually cannot. And being able to hit him during that attack and continuing to get DPS in addition to you can get doubles there, is the thing that separates and sort of catches up current patch, because it legitimately makes the fight up to, 20, 30 seconds faster if you have stone perfect luck in RNG.
Yeah. That being able to hit during fireballs is also true of NKG, which doesn't matter as much in this category. I think it improves your damage a little, as far as I know, but I'm not as familiar with the NKG fight in this category, but it is important for other categories.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps with your DPS if you're willing to be risky and play fast and loose, which I won't today, but I normally do.
Yeah, so we're doing this fight over Charmed. The main thing here is trying to get doubles with Shade Soul, though those are somewhat RNG to my knowledge. I don't remember. There's some weirdness around it.
Yeah, they're RNG on the balloon. They're consistent on the Bats attack if your spacing is good. But getting the exact spacing is hard.
Yeah. Each balloon happens at about 1/4 of the health, which is true for both Fruit Master and Nightmare King. So it's a pretty easy way to tell how far into the fight you are, and is useful for planning out your damage. Grim has a lot of really easy telegraphs for his attacks as well, which is very nice, because it means you're able to it means you're able to like properly practice your damage, and that's a balloon kill. You really do love to see it.
Yeah, that was very lucky. You have to like pace out your soul in a very particular way, and also get good doubles on the balloons. A lot of runners don't go for that because if you mess it up, you'll lose a ton of time. But I wanted to try going for it in the marathon because it's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that was almost a gold actually, which would have been Comsob. That's funny.
That's wild. Yeah. That fight. You may have noticed that some of the fights in this run are kind of RNG based for time save. But now we're going to head. This is Queen Station, right?
Yeah.
Or
so we're heading to Deep Nest to get some flames. Yep. The most blessed flame in the run. Like you mentioned earlier, one of the Nightmare Grim flames requires wings. But luckily for the alternate ending, you can talk to Brum, who also gives you a flame. So the first cycles, you have to do the 3 that you have to do. But for the last cycle, you have to get 3 of 4. Which works out to letting us skip wings, which is really nice.
Yeah, and Brum just gives us the flame for free. We just have to get into Spider Town. Or technically directly next to Spider Town, because Spider Town is the other room in Distant Village. That's beside the point.
Yeah. It works out nicely. We need Tram Pass anyway to get to Hive,
we do need.
So
yeah, and getting Tram Pass is significantly faster than getting wings. So we are able to do that in this same Deep Nest trip, and then just clear out the rest of the Grim Flames, and then head up to the fight. Yeah, Deep Nest is not a fun time. Both like casually, it's like not the worst area for speedrunning, but it's got some frustrating parts.
Yeah, there's some weird routing. This is one of the inventory drops that does matter. It uncapping your fall speed. That's a very long fall. Like getting the drop saves, I think, multiple seconds.
Yeah. We're gonna do this movement twice because it's like it's probably very slightly faster to do it all in one trip, but going to Brum and then quitting out and going to Tram Pass is much easier and like much cleaner movement wise. So we just do this twice for the most part.
Yeah, I'm sad there's not some kind of better routing because it feels
a bit eggy.
Yeah, you don't want to do the same thing twice. It feels very bizarre, but it just sort of is the way it works out.
What do you mean? Hive is consistent.
Oh, I'm desperately hoping we won't be doing Hive twice.
But yeah, here we get to talk to Brum. He's gonna tell us we can banish the troop and like save Hollownest or something. I have no idea, to be honest. I just fought from KG in my casual.
Yeah,
and since then I've played the game in Chinese, so I don't know what he's saying at all.
Something the Nightmare Heart feeds on dead civilizations, but he's like, maybe we don't have to eat your dead civilization or something. But that's way less cool. So
yeah. Also, like, this dead civilization is kind of garbage anyways. Probably fine. Actually, I don't think I ever saw the Brum Flame when I was playing through my casual. I just did the 3 other ones.
Yeah, my first casual I banished. I got sick enough of Grim that I literally just banished and then didn't beat him until my second playthrough.
Yeah, I took a while on that fight, but it was fun. Very cool fight to learn casually. It's true. We are the arbiters of lore. Mossbag, come fight us.
Alright. Quick jaunt up to Tram Pass. That's a cool C-dash. You
Love
gotta
that
get
C-dash.
it basically right away or that dirt carver will bop you, but it looks
Yeah.
cool, so we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
There are a whole host of tricks and movement in Hollow Knight that like save trivial amounts of time, like fractions of a second, but they're super
Yeah.
cool, and so like
Yeah.
everyone does them.
Yeah. And there's also things that lose fractions of a second, but also look way cooler, so I do them anyways.
Yep.
Speaking of cool things, are we gonna get it?
Nope.
Oh, just a bit late.
Yeah, it's a little slow. I didn't get the visual
the-
bug though, which is nice.
Yeah, that is usually more annoying than funny. The trick there is to open your inventory. Because of the way this game handles giving you and taking away control, you don't have control while your inventory is open. But if you get hit out of it, you get control back earlier than you would otherwise, and it cancels the knockback that happens. I cannot explain to you why that's the case, but it sometimes allows you to skip cycles. It's just very silly.
Yeah. And if you get hit out of it on like the same frame as you open it, the cool little stylized bracket just stays on your screen until you quit out next, which is fun.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in a good position. Thanks, B.
Let's go. Because we don't have wings, we have to pogo a bee there in order to get up to actually entering the hive. Area famously known for being perfectly consistent and not having awful enemy patterns at any point. What are you talking about? At Vexance. I'm gonna collect some soul here for the Nightmare Grimkin, because these ones technically take 3 Shade Soul hits. You can get them in 2 if you double one, but they are a bit more health than the others. So having full soul is just a lot cleaner.
And that was a perfect spawn. All right, we're out of the hive.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I
You don't
can't
have to
tell
do
you
the
how
rest
many
of hive.
runs I've lost in the hive. Just you get bumped by a bee, and then you miss the platform you're jumping to, and then you get bumped by another bee, and then all of a sudden you're just dead out of nowhere.
Yeah. Like, Hive goes fine when it goes well, but when it goes bad, it snowballs very quickly. And we don't even have to do some of the more tricky rooms for it. Shoutouts to Hive Blood %, skipping getting dash now optimally. And just doing that with Claw. It's... I don't get how people do it. Wild.
In extreme mental fortitude.
Yeah. Something I could not do myself.
Alright. We got a double on that one. It was off screen, but there's an audio cue when you get it so you can hear it.
Yeah.
That was our last Nightmare Grimkin, and so it is off to the races time.
Yep. Time for the final fight. This fight, we will be putting Soulcatcher back on for.
Yeah, we're gonna overcharm. It saves time. It is paradoxically kind of safer, honestly. The extra soul that Soulcatcher gives you allows you to more consistently have a fireball available. And the way NKG works, the sort of correct response to a lot of his attacks involves having a fireball. And so when you don't have that available, you can often end up in a trickier spot than you would otherwise be in. That said, he deals 2 damage by default, and we are taking double, which for those of you that are good at math, means 4, and you will notice I have 5 health.
Yep, it's fine. Just don't get hit. Easy.
Yeah. Simply do a Radiant NKG every time, which is sort of what you do in this category, which is another reason I love it.
Yep. Yeah.
I will not be talking from here. I gotta
be focusing. Yeah. I can cover the talking. But yeah, all of these attacks have scripted punishes based on like what NKG is doing. Again, the attacks are mostly faster, but they are still pretty heavily telegraphed, so you are able to respond to them pretty consistently. What Jeff is doing here at the start is called uppercut canceling. The worst attack for Grim to do is where he dashes towards you and then does an uppercut. But if you get close to him at the beginning of that attack, he dashes back and does the bath attack instead, which is much more favorable for you. Doing the uppercut cancel is a bit greedy sometimes. Or it's not greedy, it's just risky, because if he doesn't dash back, if you do it too late, you're just going to get hit. And especially here, that's just 4 damage, and you don't want that. But it does make things a lot nicer. Second balloon, things are going well, as expected. Yeah, we see there the uppercut just happens because like it was a bit too far away, I think, to properly cancel, and also like probably a bit of a safety strat there to not go for it again. Final balloon, you love to see it. This fight really is a joy to watch. It's definitely one of the more interesting boss fights in Hollow Knight speedrunning. It's also very different depending on the category you're doing it in, because 106%, which is max percent on Patch 1221, is also very cool. But this fight's probably just the most you have to really focus and know what you're doing.
All right.
And there it is.
Not my best fight, but it was hitless, and so we definitely take those.
Yeah.
That was incredible. Like, just watching that was amazing.
Yeah. Always great. Yeah. And time is about now.
Yeah. 47:25 on my live split, which is pretty good.
Yeah. PB is like a 46, right?
Yeah, mid 46.
Yeah.
Records of 45, which someday.
Someday.
And we were rewarded with a fully upgraded Grimchild.
Yeah. I guess we're the parent now.
We have achieved full parenthood.
Lovely.
So that is the run. Hope that was fun to watch, since I don't get to run in One-and-Done-athon again. Huge shout outs to Quacksilver Plays. She is the mother of memes, and this run would probably not be on SRC if it wasn't for her. So giant shout outs.
Yeah. Quack is great. She's stepped back a bit, but she did create the original meme sheet, which did like really allow meme categories to blossom. And that been really cool to see, and like a lot of people recently continuing to pick up stuff. A lot of categories that slowly get added to the SRC boards, which is rad. Shoutouts to Pantheon 5 Boss Order being such a great run. Silly, but also amazing. Yeah. I don't really have anything to say if you want to talk for a bit.
I think that's all I got. I really appreciate, GDQ giving me the chance to run. I know, obviously, you're overcharming Grim at the end, and it's very doable to just chain die 3 or 4 times. And so I appreciate them letting me do kind of a pretty risky run.
Yeah, no, this run's probably not my first choice for a safe marathon run, but I mean, you know it well, and it went very well.
Yeah, aside from missing Explosion Pogo, it was a pretty clean run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. Thank you so much. And yeah, that'll do it. We'll let you go. And of course, as is tradition in One-and-Done-athon, even though I wasn't here last time, we got to come back to the camera because we got to say goodbye forever to Jeff is Epic. Thank you so much for doing your run, to showing off this super cool run of Hollow Knight. With that, I think we will go ahead and go to a short break, everybody, while we get ready for our next run, which is going to be BS Legend of Zelda by Ice Blue. The category is 100%. It should be really cool. This game, we're going from a game from 2017 to a game from 1995 on the Satellaview. So this is going to be a bit of a change. It should be really fun. Don't go anywhere, anybody. We will we'll be back in a few minutes. Stick around. I got tripped over my words there. We'll be right back.